Today I'm walking down Golden Hind Passage in Corte Madera, and I want to talk to you about 7 signs someone is quietly wealthy. Because a lot of the stuff you see on TV and movies is all fluff, guys. And a lot of times the people next door who are driving brand new cars and look like they're doing well and got it made might actually be completely broke. Because the truly wealthy people, they don't flaunt it, they don't brag about it, and you'd really never guess who has serious money sitting in the bank and could stop working tomorrow and never have to worry about money another day in their life. But really, these behaviors are things that everyone should strive for because there's important financial lessons that can be learned from people who are quietly wealthy. So the first sign is that they don't talk about their earnings, they don't talk about expensive things, and they don't talk about excess. People who have already built up real wealth, they don't feel the need to prove anything to anybody. They don't bring up how much they earn or how they just bought a luxurious watch or got that new Rolex or that brand new car. Talking like that is usually a sign that somebody is still chasing status rather than someone who actually just has it. People who are quietly wealthy understand that they don't have to be loud about it. Honestly, it's probably in your best interest not to be, because the more people who know you are wealthy, then the more people who are going to crawl out of the woodwork asking for loans, asking for financial help, or worse. So when you meet someone who isn't trying to impress anyone, but they still seem to be grounded and in control of their life, and they never really have any financial problems or complain about the way things are, then that's a good sign that they are quietly wealthy. The second thing is they probably drive an older, paid off, and reliable vehicle. Now, this isn't always a sign that somebody is wealthy, but a lot of times it is. In fact, just one anecdote and observation I want to share is since I've been here in the Bay Area for the past few months, one thing I noticed even walking around very fancy neighborhoods, not this one, but ones that are even more upscale than this, you don't see a whole lot of brand new cars. I see a lot of old cars, 10, 15 years old, parked in the driveways of $15 million mansions, okay? Versus in Miami, I walk through neighborhoods like this, just average Joe neighborhoods, and almost every single driveway has a new car parked in front of it. If any of you have been watching me for any given amount of time, you might have seen the same thing. And if you're new to my channel and you haven't seen that, you can either go back and watch some of my videos prior to June of 2025, or you can just wait a few more weeks and I'll be back in Miami and you'll be seeing some of what I'm talking about right over there. And I think this is a great example of what I'm talking about here, because you have to be wealthy to live here, guys. If you own a house in, especially the North Bay area here, somewhere in Marin County, you need to have money. You either inherited that house so your family has money, or you have to have a high income to be able to afford that house. That's the reality. Now, Miami is sort of like that too. However, the culture in Miami is always dressed to impress, man. Everybody there is trying to prove that they have something or they are someone. And it's a huge difference. It's a night and day contrast between the culture here in the Bay Area and in Miami. But the people who are already wealthy have figured out that driving dependable cars that are fully paid for is the way to go, because they know a car is a tool, not a trophy. And instead of dropping $800 a month on a car payment on something that loses value daily, they'd rather invest that same amount of money and continue building their wealth even further. Sounds pretty smart to me. This third thing that quietly wealthy people do is probably my favorite one, and that is they spend money on things that buy back time. Now, a lot of people who have a lot of time and don't have a lot of money wish that it was the opposite. They wish they had all the money and not a lot of time. But that's really having your priorities completely mixed up, guys, because if you have a lot of money and you don't have the time to spend it or enjoy it, then what's the point? You know, and time is the most valuable currency that any of us have, because you never know how much time you have left in life, first of all, and it's something that you can never buy back. Money can always buy more of something, but it can't buy time. So wealthy people focus on making their lives easier, healthier, and more efficient, not flashier, which might mean hiring help for something like a gardener or a private chef or a maid to keep the house clean. And when they actually do indulge in something, it's usually in a personal passion, like art or collectibles or travel or hobbies that make it feel worth splurging on. That's where the enjoyment part of having wealth comes in. Like, there's no point in having it if you don't ever enjoy it. Now, the fourth sign is actually how they present themselves and their public image around others. Because believe it or not, a lot of people who are quietly wealthy, they're quiet about it for a reason, because they don't want the attention. They don't want all the flashy stuff. They don't want everybody looking at them and wondering how they got this or how they got that. You know, even if you ask them how they're doing financially or how things are going, they might even downplay it and say, oh, I'm doing all right, or I can't complain, or I'm getting by, something like that. Because they understand that bragging makes people envious of you and sometimes is even a risk. So they keep things on the down low rather than broadcast it to the world, which I think is smart. I feel like it's been a while since I've shown a house for sale because I haven't been running into too many on my walks, but check this one out. They listed this house back in May of this year for $1.725 million. And after multiple price cuts, they got down to $1.45 million, a whole $300K lower than they started off at. And now it's finally under contract as of the middle of October. And this is a great example just to show you the level of price cuts that are necessary right now to get people interested, guys. $300K off the asking price is a big deal. Now, the fifth sign that someone's quietly wealthy is they are frugal about small stuff, but decisive about big expenses. You know, this one always surprises people because someone who is secretly rich, you know, might do a research on a $30 purchase, but won't blink an eye when it's time to spend 20 grand on fixing a roof or replacing the HVAC system on your home. And the reason why is pretty simple. It's because they actually understand the difference between wants and needs. Like, when it's time to do a new roof on your house, you don't have much of a choice. It has to get done. And as long as you are choosing a good, reputable company and are putting the right material on, it's not much else to think about. But if you're looking at buying something you don't really need, then you might spend a little more time researching what to buy, or maybe you'll determine that not buying it at all is the right move. And the reason for this is because it shows discipline. People like this are disciplined about what they buy and don't just buy anything just to buy it. You know, so many people are with the consumer mindset these days that anytime they see an ad for something that they've been thinking about, it's enough to push them over the edge and pull the trigger and just buy it. But people who have been building wealth in the background don't behave like that. And that decisiveness and level of discipline can actually be one of your best characteristics that can help you build wealth in life. And another huge characteristic that can help you build wealth, number 6, is they are masters of being patient. Wealthy people understand that you do not have to have it right now. So they don't use things like buy now, pay later, because if you actually deserve to have it now, well, then you would already have the money for it now. They see through all the fake sales and inflated prices on everything, and they know that almost everything eventually gets discounted. No matter how new and how cool something seems or how scarce it might seem, if there is demand for it, eventually you're going to be able to get it at a discount. Anybody who can develop the mindset of delayed gratification really has the building blocks to have long-term sustainable wealth. Practicing not buying things you don't need and or saving and waiting for when you can actually afford it is a huge life skill to learn. And once you've mastered it, you're well on your way to becoming wealthy. Now, this 7th point is sometimes debatable, just like the car situation, but let's go over it. You know, a lot of times they don't actually live in homes that match their income, which is sometimes true and sometimes not. It kind of depends on how wealthy you are, because sometimes if you're so wealthy, it just might make sense to own that $10 million house that costs 6 figures a year in property taxes and insurance, because you make so much that you got to do something with the cash. You know, there are situations like that. But if you're just like wealthier than most people wealthy, but not filthy rich, chances are you're probably not doing that, because a lot of people who have been building wealth in the background have also learned that you need to live below your means in order to get ahead. And that's kind of like a characteristic that sticks with you even once you have the money to move up. And people like this also value low stress and low maintenance situations and having financial flexibility, even if it means not having a brand new house or the 4,000 square foot mansion. Because at the end of the day, people like this understand that being rich is not about looking rich. It's just about not having to prove it to anyone. You know, why do you have to announce it to the world? I personally try to follow all of these principles that I outlined here in this video because I learned probably about 10 years ago that these are things that you should be doing if you want to get ahead financially. And lo and behold, my life has changed dramatically since I have started putting all these things into practice. And that's why I think everybody out there listening could benefit from this.